what you got. Oh, I can't see tomorrow. Gotta live, try to get a little wiggle room, the rest don't stop. Quid pro quo, I need the best y'all got. Tryna make a dollar, flip it like it's vinyl. Tryna make a way. What's it worth to you if the price too high? Quid pro quo, I need the best y'all got. Give me your best. Don't say nothing less, cause I'm giving you 100. How you always leaving me with nothing? I'm not impressed. It's gonna take more than this, cause I'm giving you 100. And I don't even know if I can trust you for nothing.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There we are. We are rocking and rolling. Welcome to Monday. Good morning, Vanessa Self. How are you? It is good to be seen. It's good to see you. Although I can't see you. You can see me. So I guess it's good to be seen more than it's good to see you. How about that? Let me turn those off. There we go. That's much better. So I'm not yelling at you guys. I hope you had an awesome weekend. It was a really good weekend. I suppose a lot of downtime, a lot of reflection time to work, time to continue my 75 hard transition, which has been really good, y'all. And I don't know if you remember this, but I had said I wanted to take my morning routine Monday through Friday into the weekend, and 75 hard has encouraged me to take my weekly morning routine into the weekend. So it's super, super cool. Let me see this invitation. Hang on 1 second. It's been super, super cool to see that happen. So good morning, Vanessa. How was your weekend? Let me get back over here. There we go. Good. I'm glad your weekend was great. Still 75 hardened. Everything's still good. I think we're on day 16. I know you're a day or two behind. Yesterday was quiet. I didn't hear a lot of stuff from the 75 hard crowd yesterday. So I'm wondering if we did have some go backers. And I thought about that this morning as I was gonna. I'm so happy to hear that. I can see your smile right now on your face as you're saying that. I can see your face lighten up. So it's super, super cool. It's been good. Good morning, Teal. How are you? How was your weekend? Everybody gets going. Everybody gets settled in. We got people coming. I hope we got people coming. I'll just do my introductions. My name is Aaron Dwyer. I am the broker owner of Exit Realty Lake Country. My wife, Christy, and I own Exit Realty Lake Country. We have 6 offices in 2 states, Tennessee and Georgia. And every morning we typically get up and have this call at about 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. We spend some time with our agents and then some time with some other folks who are part of the Exit Realty Lake Country Nation, just sharing some motivation, getting folks off to a good start on their day. And hopefully one of these, I guess it's what I preach all the time. Every day we do small things to make significant results. And this is just a small piece of what I can do, what we can do to help our agents go out and be the best versions of themselves. So glad you're here. If you're here this morning, please do me a favor. Make sure that you comment on the chat that you're here. Just a good morning is fantastic. And outside of that, we'll get rocking and rolling. Teal says she had a perfect weekend. She had a client buying and selling. We like buying and selling clients. I actually had to do real estate work this weekend. I had some. Hopefully I've got a listing that's going to get a contract on it very, very soon, which would be fantastic. And I got some other folks looking at a house while they're trying to. The listing's not a challenge. Their buy is a challenge, so it happens. But we're doing well here in Tennessee as well. I guess today's the day I'm going back to Georgia, so hopefully we'll see you guys this week. I think we've got a meeting, and I am assuming the meeting is in Madison. I haven't seen any communication. I am presuming the meeting's in Madison again on Wednesday, and then I think next month in February we'll start to move that Georgia every other weekend meeting around maybe someplace else. So just stay tuned for that. Tomorrow, I'm thinking for all my agents, Exit Realty Lake Country agents, I'm thinking tomorrow, guys. I know I had said I was going to do a Boomtown training, but what I think I'll do is I spent some time late last night staying up, and I just want you to know there's nothing new under the sun in the real estate business. Tom Ferry teaches the same thing that his dad, Mike Ferry, taught, and Coach Burt teaches the same things that Tom Ferry teaches, and Ricky Caruth, and any trainer that you go see, or any coach that you pay for, as a Brian Buffini, I don't care who it is, the Core Training Network, any of these trainings, they all teach the same thing. It really is just a personality connection. So just understand there's not really anything new under the sun, but I am building a for sale by owner training that I want to share with you guys tomorrow. If I am there, and that we're still kind of juggling some balls there. If I am in Georgia, I probably will be doing it from Hartwell, doing the training from Hartwell. I will stream the training if you can't be in Hartwell, but if you can be in Hartwell, I'll be doing it live, and then I'll stream the rest of it. But I think learning how to do for sale by owners this year, if you want to be a listing agent, which I want you to be a listing agent, because in this business, being a listing agent is the absolutely most important thing you can do for your business to have long-term business, to have long-term success in the real estate business. You've got to become a listing agent. Buying shoes doesn't make you a shoe store owner. Having an inventory of shoes and having people come buy your shoes makes you a business owner. In the real estate business, going out and showing people houses and working the buyer side of the transaction doesn't make you a professional. It makes you a buyer's agent. Now, you can be really, really good at being a buyer's agent, but when you move over into the listings, when you move over into having the inventory and you become a listing agent, that's when you truly become a professional. That's when your real estate business is going to take off. That's when it's going to go forward. That's how you become really good at this business. So I'm going to teach you how to for sale by owner program. The reason I disclaimered that with all this, what I just said about Mike Ferry and Tom Ferry and Brian Buffini and Core and all that, is because I use what other people have already put out there. With my own knowledge, with my own experience, with what I do, I find the things that I think work based on my own experience, what I believe works, what I've used successfully in the past. And I'm really, really good with for sale by owners. So this is going to be a strategy that you're going to have in 2023. You're going to have to learn how to talk to for sale by owners and expireds again, because listings are not going to stay on the market for 15 minutes like they did last year. Listings are going to stay on the market a little longer. Okay. So becoming a listing agent, for some of you new folks, becoming a listing agent is absolutely essential for you to be a professional in this business. I'm going to share that with you. So tomorrow, be paying attention to that. I'll put something on the calendar later today. And as soon as I get some of the logistics figured out, if nothing else, worst case scenario, it's a webinar. Okay. And I'll share, and we can all get on there together, but I'll share some of those logistics later today. I'm really hoping we have more people on this call. That's why I scheduled it for 7, so we can get more people on here. But I thought we'd take advantage of this holiday and kids out of school and let you sleep in a little bit and get a little more rest. But apparently we're gonna keep on rolling. So the title of this was "I Have a Dream," and last night I spent some time looking at the life of Dr. Martin Luther King and kind of what some of the things that he did and some of the things that maybe aren't things that I just don't remember, things that I don't, that maybe the most prevalent memories I have of Dr. King was his assassination and his speech. And I think there's so much more that goes into a person, and so much more that goes into the life of a person than just the highlights. a lot of times in this world and where we are, we tend to pay attention to the highlights. We tend to pay attention to what we see on Facebook and what we see in places and what people allow us to see. And we've become so accustomed to being, morning, Michelle T. We've become so accustomed, and I use this word loosely, but we've become so, we're accustomed to being controlled by narrative. We are accustomed as an American people to be directed and influenced by what the masses do. You've heard me talk about the hypnosis of mediocrity. You've heard me. No, you're good. Whoever that is, that's late. You've heard me talk about the hypnosis. I keep saying hypnosis. The hypnosis of mediocrity. But you hear me talk about, this desire. What up, Heather B? This hypnosis of being average, of being like everybody else, where we want to fit in. We want our clothes. We want our clothes to fit in, and the car we drive to fit in, and the neighborhood we drive to fit in, and we want our kids to fit in, and we want our lives to fit in, and we want everything to look pretty much like what we believe other people's stuff looks like. But we've been so duped into hearing just the highlights. We've been duped into believing that what we see on Facebook is real. I sent a message to a guy yesterday, and if my message was kind of tongue in cheek, I haven't talked to the guy in forever. Used to see him a lot when I lived over in Hendersonville, but he crossed my mind yesterday. So I sent him a text message and I said, "Hey man, I see everything on Facebook looks fantastic. I hope everything in real life matches what it is on Facebook." Because so many times we only want people to see the good stuff. I don't want you to see the times that are bad. I don't want you to see the times that I struggle. I just want you to see the highlights. So when I was looking at get on the internet last night and looking for some things, because I wanted to talk about Dr. King, and I wanted to talk about his speech, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that why we celebrate this day, why this day we don't have to go to school, why this day the banks aren't open, and why this day we celebrate the life of a man who was only 39 years old when he died. Did y'all know that? He was only 39 years old when he died. If my math serves me correct. Dr. King was raised in a religious household. His father was a preacher, and his father went on a religious sabbatical early on in Dr. King's life. His dad was a pastor, and he went to Jerusalem and Israel and all around Europe. And he said one of the reason why Dr. Martin Luther King's name is Dr. Martin Luther King's name, that's not his born name. I'm not sure if y'all knew that, but that's not his birth name. Martin Luther King was not his birth name. So when his father came back from this religious sabbatical, he was so taken back in Germany through the Reformation, Martin Luther. So there's a man in Germany in the 1700s who really, it was called the Reformation, and he challenged the Catholic Church, and really Martin Luther was the seed, the birth of the Christian church as we know it today. Dr. King's father good morning, Carrie, was so impressed by the works of Martin Luther. He was so impressed by Martin Luther's desire to stand up against the establishment, to stand up against the Catholic Church, to stand up against what was the only way to do things at the time. And y'all, this was like a year after Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. So this was a very tumultuous time in Germany. So Dr. King's dad, whose name was Michael, Dr. Martin Luther King's original birth name was Michael, and he came back to the United States from this trip, went to court, changed his name, the father did, and also changed his son's name to Martin Luther. So Martin Luther King Jr. was originally Michael King Jr. Interesting fact. I never knew that. So that's an interesting fact. If you knew that, then hats off to you. But some interesting things about Dr. Martin Luther King. He was admitted to Morehouse College at 15. He was so intelligent that he skipped, 3 years of school and entered Morehouse College at 15. He graduated from Morehouse when he was 19. He went on to theology school, and he got his secondary degree in theology, and then went to get a doctorate from Boston University. Very, very intelligent man. I mean, absolutely a crazy smart guy. Died at 39, though. Did you know that somebody tried to kill him a year before he was actually assassinated? I didn't know that. Or maybe I had heard that and didn't know it. But somebody tried to kill him a year before he was actually assassinated. This man who stood up for peace, this man who stood up for justice, this man who stood in the gap for the people whose voices weren't being heard, for the people whose rights weren't being given, standing up for people who were marginalized and or put in the corner and or looked past because of the color of their skin. Dr. King stood up for those people. Y'all remember, I went to Detroit and went to the Henry Ford Museum. And in the Henry Ford Museum, they had this huge display of from the beginnings of America, through slavery, through emancipation, through the civil rights movement. They had the bus that Coretta Scott King sat on in this display. And it was, they had pictures of the riots and the violence and the speeches and the people and the faces. And it was so moving. Jagger and Thomas, one of his hockey buddies, actually got to sit on the bus that Coretta Scott King sat on. And the lady in there told him about, kind of shared with him some perspective of what this really meant. And it was so moving. So this morning last night I was thinking I wanted to kind of dive in as we I don't want this just to be a day that we sit home and enjoy a break from going to school or a break from going to the bank or whatever, but truly that for the first time, because I think we do this, we just sort of look past. I know I do, and I can't speak for y'all, but I'll look past what this day symbolizes and the life of someone who didn't live to see 40. What kind of life that man led, the impact in 39 years that one person had on a nation, on a people, on cities and states and places all over the world. You can't go to a city and there's not a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. In 39 years, the impact this man had on a nation. And the words that we hear and the words that we remember are, I have a dream. And I could hear when I wrote it on the title of this morning, when I wrote I have a dream, I could hear that familiar refrain of his voice. And I could hear him bellowing out, I have a dream. Did you know that wasn't even a part of the speech? That the speech that he gave that day, the I have a dream speech, he had delivered 4 times previously. And the speech that he delivered that day wasn't even the speech that was written on the piece of paper. That 4 minutes that were the most powerful, that's right. Lynn said, good morning, Lynn. He said he did make an impact. That impact started with influence. That's exactly right. But think about this. And I'll speak to that point, Lynn. Think about being singularly focused on an objective. Think about nothing else getting in the way of what you're trying to accomplish. Think about moving in the direction of your dream and desire. In the midst of other people wanting to kill you, other people wanting to, Y'all, a lady stabbed him with a 7-inch letter opener at a book signing a year before he was assassinated. I never knew that. A lady stabbed him with a letter opener at a book signing. It's amazing when we chase our dreams and desires and everything lines up perfectly. The birds are always singing, the rainbows are always, the sun's always shining, the rainbow's out. We always hear positive, uplifting music, and we're running down the road, and people are giving you the thumbs up and saying, "All right, buddy, keep on rocking." That's a fantastic journey when we're chasing our dreams and our desires, and we have the support of everybody around us. It's a much different story. It's a much different thing to comprehend when we're chasing an ideal, when we're chasing our dream, when we're chasing a desire, when we're chasing some way to make an impact, when we're going after some way to make a difference in other people's lives, when we're trying to ignite the spark of our own purpose and moving into moving into the fog of the unknown. When we do that, and people are hurling rocks at us, when they're throwing insults at us, when they're trying to tear us down at every single turn, sometimes out of jealousy, sometimes out of anger, sometimes out of malice, sometimes out of hatred, who knows? But in my experience, I believe it doesn't come close to mimicking Dr. King's experience, because all he wanted was little brown boys, little brown girls to be raised in a world the same way as little white boys, little white girls. All he wanted were for black folks and white folks to be able to drink out of the same water fountains, be able to have the same opportunities, to be able to do the same things. Gosh, if that's not a great ideal, if that's not taking what Jesus said and when Jesus said, "Bring everybody to me," it's exactly what he said. So Dr. King, being the brilliant man that he was, says, "This is what I want. This is what I want to go after." But the establishment didn't want that. The establishment wasn't ready for that. The people and the cities that he went to and the places that he went, he had to have security with him because people wanted to kill him because of his message. Because of a message. I mean, to me, in 2023, that is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling to me that we have that the differences were that palpable, that people were that angry about equality, that people were that angry about people being the same, that people were so, and I can remember this as a child. I can remember, man, hearing my dad tell stories. My dad grew up in Nashville. He was born in the late 50s, early 60s. Lived over in an area called the Nations, which the Nations, for those of you who don't know Nashville, used to be white trash. So the Nations is in West Nashville, over towards Dixon, and that was white trash. And it was all white trash that lived in the Nations. Now the Nations has been gentrified, and now the Nations is super, super expensive. And now you can't buy a house in the Nations for like less than $900,000. But when my dad was over there, it was all white trash. And it truly was separated. And just up from the Nations, there was a kind of the area that there was this hill. And on the other side of the hill, on the other side of were the projects, where all the black folks lived and where all they lived, right? And I remember as a kid hearing my dad laugh and tell stories and it was funny to him. It was funny to him, again, raised in a different era, where they would actually go to the top of the hill and they would fight just because it was white folks and black folks. And the white folks didn't want the black folks in the neighborhood. And the black folks didn't want the white folks in the neighborhood. And they'd fight. It's crazy. I just thought about this. I showed a house yesterday in Nashville. in a neighborhood called Enchanted Forest. Enchanted Forest was a neighborhood that was built in the 70s. And it was built in the 70s in North Nashville, in an area that is, even now to this day, probably 90 to 95% African American owned. And they built this neighborhood to be the Belle Meade for black folks, for African American people. That they actually had to go to North Nashville, build a new neighborhood just for African American people, because my guess is the folks in Belle Meade didn't want them to be there. That the folks in the higher end neighborhoods in Nashville didn't want them living in their neighborhood. So they had to go out and build their own neighborhood. And I actually showed a house yesterday in Enchanted Forest. It was built in 1971. It was built by a doctor who happened to be an African American gentleman who's now passed away. But it's a gorgeous house, 4,000 square feet, immaculate, big, huge, ornate. It was a time warp. It's still the only thing in the house that was in 1971 was the dishwasher and the microwave. Everything else was straight from 1971. The intercom, the double ovens, the carpet, the wallpaper, the light fixtures, the orange. They had an orange sink. Everything was from 1971. But my point is, even the year I was born in 72, even in 1972, there was still that tension. That was only 3 years after Dr. King had been assassinated. 36 months after Dr. King had been assassinated. I have a dream. He had a dream. And the transcript of the speech is 4 minutes long, or 4 pages long. And I've actually got it pulled up on my computer. I haven't been able to go through it and find the spots that I want to really, really give to you. But I guess suffice it to say is this. Lynn said he had influence. Where did he get that influence? Was it influence from his education? Was it influence from his name? Was it influence from his upbringing, color of his skin, the money that he had in the bank, the car he drove, the clothes he wore? Where did his influence come from? And I'm speaking from a really ignorant spot here, because I'm being honest with you guys. I don't know a ton about, other than what I just told you. I don't know a ton about Dr. King. So I'm just going to go, this is from a completely ignorant spot that I'm going to say this. I believe Dr. King's influence came from his singular sense of purpose. I believe that his influence came from his singular focus on what he believed was true. And he believed so much in his truth that he was willing to die for it. Matter of fact, he knew he was going to die for it. And for a man that preached nonviolence, for a man that sat down in protest, didn't burn things, didn't blow things up. There were other people that were doing that. Dr. King said, "Look, let's not do this. We can do this peacefully. Just listen to what we're saying. We can do this." I remember that in Nashville. Nashville's got Tennessee State University, which is a black college, and I remember the sit-ins. I remember hearing about the sit-ins they would have at different places where the students would come in, and they would sit at the counter, and they would just sit there and protest where they weren't supposed to be. I believe his influence came from a singular purpose, from a singular passion, from a singular focus, from all of his energy going a single direction. And that influence was a result of the energy of his singular purpose, of his singular passion. And the energy that he gave off, and the things that he said. And he said it with such power and such passion and such moxie that people got by. He was able to link arms with tons of people and do things and create a movement that truly changed how we are right now. In that exhibit at the Henry Ford Museum, they had good morning, Millie. At that museum at the Henry Ford Museum, they had like a bus depot built in there, right? And it's for my kid to see it, for two 11-year-olds to see and ask questions. Why is it like that? Why is there a colored section and a white section? They had a water fountain on the wall that was whites only, coloreds only. And they're asking questions. Why is this? And to be able to answer those questions, to take Dr. King's passion, to take what he wanted, to continue this message. Carrie said, oh, all the battles we face, overcoming another person's ignorance is the hardest. He loved to fight that fight. I don't know if he loved to fight that fight, Carrie, as much as he loved he loved the dream. He loved where he thought it was going. He loved the idea of everybody being equal, of everybody being the same, of everybody having the same opportunities. He had been influenced. His dad had been to Europe, right? His dad had seen a different life. His dad had seen different things. And when he came back to the United States and he gave that to his son, and when he changed their names, his son grew up differently. His son heard different stories. His son heard different inputs. And even though his son saw with his eyes the things that were happening, I think the great divide right there is his son had been taught from the time he was born that everybody's the same, son. You have the same opportunities as everybody else has. You have the ability to do the same things everybody else does. He went to college at 15. And the people that were throwing rocks at him probably quit school before they were 15. And the people that were hurling insults at him had probably were not college educated. And this man who had spent his life, his early years, under tutelage of his father, learning equality, learning sameness, learning that he had a dream. And sometimes your dream challenges other people's, exactly what you said, Carrie. Sometimes your dream is going to challenge other people's ignorance. Let me rephrase that. Every single time, your dream is going to challenge other people's ignorance. And here's why. It ain't their dream. It's your dream. And how many times have you thought about, I would love to do this, but in the back of your mind, the little voice on your shoulder, you hear all the people in the crowd chirping at you. You can't do that. How many times have you said in your heart, your heart says to you, I want to do X. I want to go here. I want to experience this. I want to make this amount of money. I want to be able to do these things. Yet you pull back from your dream because you're hearing the voice on your shoulder. You're hearing the voices of all the people in the background. Man, I read something yesterday. It's a fantastic quote. If I can find it, I'm going to tell it to you right now. But I don't have my phone, so I've got to find it on my notes. This quote's fantastic. You got to hear this. Come on. I don't know if our notes have updated. Here we go. We talk ourselves out of things based on what we think other people will say, not what they actually will say. We talk ourselves out of things. We talk ourselves out of our dreams. That's why Dr. King was so influential, because he had one singular focus. And with every bit of his passion and every bit of his emotion and everything he had in him, he had a dream. And he was willing to go to his grave to see his dream come true. He was willing to face ignorance. He was willing to face hatred. He was willing to face anger. He was willing to stand up and face the lion to chase his dream. He didn't want to fight the lion, but he knew the lion was there. He didn't want to fight the establishment, but he knew the establishment was there. He knew there was a way to do it peacefully because he was raised in a home where Jesus was the example. Jesus could have destroyed everybody. Jesus could have vanquished everybody. Jesus could have blown up cities. Heck, God of the Old Testament blew up entire cities. God in the Old Testament destroyed the entire world. When the new covenant came and Jesus came with grace and mercy, and when he came to give you life and love, and he told you love is the greatest of all these, that's how Dr. King was raised. Love is the greatest of all these. And even when the woman stabbed him in the chest, y'all, he was that close to dying a year before he gave that speech. A woman stabbed a 7-inch letter opener into his chest that just missed his heart. Lynn said what he knew he was in Christ, and didn't let the world dictate what he could do or put limits on him. He didn't let people talk him out of. Because I'm certain Dr. King had a lot of people around him who said, you ought to do it this way. I can only imagine Jesus and Paul, Jesus and Peter sitting around by the fire talking, and Peter and Paul looking at Jesus and saying, Jesus, why don't you just go over there and blink your nose and blow up the temple? Why don't you just say a prayer right now? Just say a prayer right now and let the frogs and locusts go eat them. Jesus, why don't you let us go find an army and we'll go destroy these people? We have all these people who are willing to fight with you. Let us go round them up. Let's go get some swords and we'll go fight them. I mean, I can only imagine the conversations between Jesus and Peter and Paul. And Jesus saying, boys, that ain't how we're doing this. We can't meet them with that. That's not what we're doing with this. I can only imagine that Dr. King had the same kind of conversations with people around him that said, look, Martin, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not listening. And the only way they're going to listen is if we start blowing stuff up and we start knocking things down and we start really hurting them where it really hurts. And he's like, boys, that's not going to do it. That's not going to make the lasting impact that we need to make. All it's going to do is create more hatred, more anger, more violence. Why don't we just pump the brakes on being nasty? Let's do this thing with love. He knew who he was in Christ. Your dreams are going to have rocks thrown at it. Your desires, what you want, sometimes they're going to have rocks thrown at it. Sometimes people are going to tell you that you're crazy. Sometimes people are going to be mad at you. Sometimes you have to leave people behind. People that you thought were there for you, people who you thought were in your corner, people who you thought were you're going to be your staunchest supporters, and you go tell them your dream, you go tell them what you want to go do, and they look at you and they go, you can't do that. Look at you. You're not smart enough. Why do you think you can do that? You haven't been there long enough. You just moved to social circle. You can't do that. Nobody even knows you like a Coney. And you start to believe the limitations more than you start to believe your ability. You start to believe in the lies, and you start to believe in the detractors, and you start to believe all the people who aren't in the ring with you doing what you do. Again, I'm speaking of this total ignorance because I've done very little research into Dr. King's life. But I venture a guess, when all those people were saying those things to him, when all those people were trying to change his direction, he stayed steady in his purpose. with that big smile on his face. And he said, boys, it's going to be okay. I understand what I'm getting into. And I believe if we put down the swords and we just speak love and we just speak life and we just speak hope into people, I believe if we put down the swords and just keep doing what we're doing, we may not see the results right now, but I believe we will, because I have a dream that one day it won't look like it looks right now. I have a dream that one day, that all of you out there listening to me right now in this speech, that one day this nation will look different than it does right now, that it will act different than it does right now, that our children and our children's children will grow up in a world where people are the same. Where everybody has the same opportunities and the same access and the same stuff. Do we still have challenges? We absolutely do, man. Is it still perfect? Nope, it ain't perfect. There's still a lot of stuff out there in the world that I'll never understand, because I sit in this chair and I look like I look. And I live like I live. There's a lot of stuff I'll never understand. I have seen some other sides of my experience, and being a police officer for all those years and working in the inner city and doing different things. I've seen a lot that a lot of people haven't seen. I've seen less than a lot of people have seen. Dr. King had a dream. He knew who he was. That's such a great point. He knew who he was. His confidence was in Christ. He had no fear of dying because he knew why he was here. He was so solid in his purpose and who he was and in the direction of his dream that death didn't even scare him. The night before he died and was assassinated in Memphis, he gave a speech. And a lot of people think that speech was sort of him foretelling his assassination. And the line that stands out to me is, I've seen the promised land. I've seen the promised land. So my question to you today is, on January the 16th, 2023, do you have a dream? On January the 16th, 2023, do you have a dream that you can focus all of your effort and energy on? Can you stop being distracted by mediocrity? Can you stop being distracted by average? Can you stop being distracted by your habitual behaviors that aren't getting you any closer to your dream? Can you focus 100% this year, right now, starting this moment? Can you put 100% of your focus on your dream, on the thing that you've been given, on that purpose that was created in you, on that thing that you're supposed to do? And keep moving toward that dream, regardless of what people on the outside say, regardless of what you perceive as lack of support, regardless of what you think is happening on the outside, regardless of what you believe or what you hear about your abilities. God doesn't put dreams in our hearts that aren't ours. He doesn't put Millie's dream in my heart. He doesn't put Lynn's dream in my heart. He didn't put Carrie's dream or anybody else's dream. He didn't put Christy's dream in my heart. The dreams he puts in me are Aaron's dreams. And my job as I walk on this earth, as this big planet spins around, my job is to go after that dream. My job is to accomplish that thing. My job is to impact people's lives. My job, my dream is to see other people get better. Y'all, it's so crazy. We've lost a bunch of people. I thought we'd have more people in here than this. I want for you, each one of you that are on this call, each one of you that'll watch this later today, I want so much for you to have such a big, gargantuan, beautiful dream that it lights you up in the morning. When you open your eyes in the morning, you can't wait to get there. And when you sit in silence, when you pray, when you do your affirmations, when you go to work, when you start calling people, when you get in your business, that everything that you're doing is toward the direction of your dream. I have a dream. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for everybody. And guess what? I'm of the mindset that your dream doesn't take away from my dream. And I'm of the mindset that my dream shouldn't take away from your, it doesn't, not shouldn't, it doesn't take away from your dream. That there's so much out there. There's so many things to go after. There's so many things that are out there that you shouldn't look at your dream as taking away from someone else. Dr. King's dream was that everybody would get the same opportunities. Dr. King's dream was that everybody would be the same. That Dr. King's dream was that everybody would play off the same sheet of music, have the same opportunities, have the same abilities, have the same experience, be together. Because he knew and believed that us together are better than us apart. That was the message of Jesus. We're better together than we are apart. That's my message to you at Exit Realty Lake Country. In our company, we're better together than we are apart. We're better in this company when we're all pulling the road the same direction. We're better in this company when we're collaborating together. We're better in this company when we're getting together, doing what we do. We have all come to this company. You've all come to Exit Realty Lake Country with a dream. Some of it's been muted. Some of it's kind of been pushed down a little bit, but you all came here with a dream. And when you came to Exit Realty Lake Country for the first time and you heard a meeting or you heard someone else talk or you were inspired to say, I'm coming, let's do this thing. There was a resonance in your spirit. It wasn't because we had the best splits. It wasn't because teal's better than red. It wasn't because our offices are cooler than everybody else's offices. It wasn't because Aaron and Christy are just fantastic business people. It was because there was something in your spirit that went off and you said, this is my place. These are my people. We're better together than we are apart. My dream is that Exit Realty Lake Country is a company that's a shining light on top of a hill, that our company is something that people look at and want to be a part of because they know we're different. That's what I want. My dream is that we have the ability to change the real estate industry one agent at a time, showing them there's a better way to do the real estate business. Because we're helping people find their way. We're helping people be authentic. But we're better together than we are apart. Y'all, there are challenges. There are rocks getting thrown. There are people throwing darts, arrows, spears, fiery boulders. Man, there's all kinds of stuff coming over the wall right now. I can only imagine Dr. King going from place to place in the middle of the night. I can only imagine him being out in the day, surrounded by security, and people throwing rocks through the windows of where he was. Walking down the street and people hurling insults at him, spitting at him. Challenging the establishment is never fun. If y'all remember, Jesus went through the same thing. Jesus endured the same exact thing. Some of you have endured the exact same thing. I think as a company, we're kind of enduring that right now. But the one thing Jesus did is he didn't change his mission and he didn't change his message. One thing Dr. King did, he didn't change his mission and he didn't change his message. I'm telling you right now, Exit Realty Lake Country, if I have anything to do with this, is not changing its mission and it's not going to change its message. What I want for you this day, for those of you that are still left, what I want for you this day, what I want for you this year, what I want for you this month, what I want for you in 6 months, what I want from you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what I want from you, what I want you to do, what I want to see you do is be so committed to your mission and your message that you don't let all this noise on the outside influence you. That you don't let all this noise out here tell you there's a better way to do this, there's a better way to do that, that Teal is ugly, that Exit's a stupid name, that Aaron and Christy are dumb. Aaron and Christy they don't know their heads from a hole in the ground. They fly by the seat of their, I don't want you to listen to all this noise. What I do want you to listen to is that thing in your heart. What I do want you to listen to is that still small voice. What I do want you to listen to is what your guts tell you. That's what I want you to listen to. Stay focused on your mission. Stay focused on your dream. If you don't have your dream solidly in your eyes, in your heart, in your direction, in your path, then go find that. Go find that. Be bold enough, be strong enough, be brave enough to face the ignorance. Be bold enough, be brave enough to face the anger. Be bold enough, be brave enough to stand up for your dream in the face of ignorance. When we are singularly focused, when the human brain is singularly focused, it is the most powerful thing on the planet. When your brain is singularly focused, when you lock your mind around something, it creates reality. With a couple little things in there, but in general statement. So I want you to lock your mind around your purpose. I want you to lock your mind around your dream. This day, I want you to hear Dr. King's voice in your head, in your heart, in your spirit, ringing and the gong of your soul gonging. I have a dream. I have a dream. Go out today. Love on people. Be valuable to people. Be valuable to yourself. Speak kindly to you. Because I promise you, out there in the world, there's enough people talking smack about you that if anybody, you need somebody in your corner. And if you can't be in your corner, how can you expect anybody else to be in your corner? So speak well of yourself today. Walk in the direction of your dream. Get some emotion behind your purpose. Get some emotion behind the direction of in your path. Get some emotion behind what it is you are called to do. And then go do it with everything you've got. And let the chips fall where they're going to fall. Go do it with everything you have. And let the results be what the results are going to be. Trust the process. Have a dream. think I'm done. I love you. I love every one of you on this call this morning. Those of you got on here this morning with us, I so love you. Um, my hope against hope, my prayer against prayer is that you get something from these calls. The last thing in the world I want to do is waste your time. The last thing I want to do is take away from your day, and the last thing I want to do is not be of value to you. So hopefully you got something out of this morning. I pray that you got something out of this morning. But I love you, and I want you to be good. I want you to be great, but most of all, I want you to be you. So have a good day. Bye, y'all.